What happens when a beloved late-night host faces off against royalty gone rogue in an interview that spirals completely out of control? It only took 38 seconds after one shocking comment for Prince Harry to be physically escorted off the set of Jon Stewart's show in what insiders are calling the most explosive talk show moment in television history. The studio audience had no idea what they were about to witness. They came expecting laughs, maybe some light political banter, the usual Jon Stewart charm. What they got instead was a verbal showdown that left jaws on the floor and cameras rolling through every uncomfortable second. Prince Harry walked onto that stage with an energy that immediately felt off. Where Jon greeted him with his trademark warm handshake and genuine smile, Harry barely made eye contact. He slumped into the guest chair like he was doing everyone a favor just by showing up. The audience clapped politely, but you could already sense the tension building. Jon started simple, welcoming Harry to the show, making a lighthearted joke about the differences between British and American television. The kind of softball opener that usually gets a chuckle and sets everyone at ease. But Harry just stared at him. No laugh, no smile. Just this cold, blank expression that made the whole studio go quiet. "So, thanks for being here," Jon said, trying to push past the awkwardness. "I know you've got a lot going on." Harry leaned back in his chair, spreading his arms wide across the back of the seat like he owned the place. "Yeah, well, I figured I'd come down here and see what all the fuss is about with your little show." Little show. He actually said that. You could feel the audience shift in their seats. Jon's smile tightened, just a fraction. But he's a professional. He's handled difficult guests before. He laughed it off, tried to keep things moving. "Little show, huh? Well, we do our best with what we have," Jon said, his tone still friendly, but with just a hint of edge creeping in. "So let's talk about your work, your charitable efforts. You've been involved in a lot of important causes." Harry waved his hand dismissively. Sure. I mean, when you come from where I come from, you kind of have an obligation to help the little people, you know? It's just what we do." The little people. The audience was dead silent now. Jon's eyebrows went up slightly. That look he gets when he can't quite believe what he's hearing. He set his note cards down on the desk slowly, deliberately. "The little people," Jon repeated. "That's an interesting way to put it." "Well, yeah," Harry continued, completely oblivious to the hole he was digging. "I mean, most people don't have the platform I have. They don't have the influence. So somebody has to speak for them, right? Might as well be someone who actually knows what they're talking about." Jon shifted forward in his chair. "And you think being born into royalty automatically makes... You know what you're talking about when it comes to regular people's problems?" "More than you, probably," Harry shot back. "No offense, but you're just a comedian. I've actually lived a life of service." The audience gasped. Actual gasps. Jon Stewart, the man who spent decades advocating for 9/11 first responders, who used his platform to fight for veterans and expose political corruption, just got told he was just a comedian by someone who literally inherited his position in life. Jon sat back, nodding slowly. That dangerous nod that anyone who watches his show knows means he's about to dismantle someone's argument, piece by piece. "Just a comedian," Jon said quietly. "Okay, so tell me about this life of service. What does that look like for you?" Harry shrugged. "I've done plenty. Charity events, photo ops with sick kids, that sort of thing. More than most people ever do." "Photo ops," Jon repeated. "With sick kids. That's your version of service." "It brings awareness," Harry said defensively. "Do you know how many people see those photos? Millions. That's impact." Jon leaned forward on his desk. "You know what else has impact? Actually showing up, doing the work when cameras aren't around, not calling the people you're supposedly helping the little people like they're beneath you." Harry's face was turning red now. I don't have to sit here and be lectured by someone who makes jokes for a living. I came on this show as a courtesy. A courtesy, Jon said, his voice getting sharper. You came on this show because your PR team thought it would make you look relatable. But here's the thing. You can't fake genuine care for people, and you definitely can't talk down to them and expect anyone to buy that you're some kind of humanitarian. I've done more good than you could even imagine, Harry snapped. While you're sitting here in your comfortable studio making fun of people, I'm out there actually making a difference. The audience was completely silent. This wasn't entertaining anymore. This was uncomfortable. This was real tension, real anger, bubbling to the surface. Jon stood up from behind his desk. He never does that during interviews. Never. You want to talk about making a difference? Let's talk about it. Name one thing. One actual thing you've done that didn't involve a photographer or a press release. Harry stood up too, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. How dare you question my commitment? Do you know who I am? Yeah, I know exactly who you are, Jon said, his voice steady but intense. You're someone who thinks a title means you don't have to actually earn respect. You think because you were born into privilege that somehow makes you better than everyone else. I am better than you, Harry shouted. The words echoed through the studio. I come from a family that shaped history. What have you done? Tell jokes? Make people laugh? That's not real work. Jon walked around his desk, standing between Harry and the audience now. You know what real work is? It's fighting for people who can't fight for themselves. It's using whatever platform you have, whether you inherited it or built it yourself, to actually help people. Not to make yourself feel important. Not for photo ops. For them. This is ridiculous, Harry spat. I don't have to justify myself to you or anyone else. I'm a prince. Not here you're not, Jon said firmly. Here you're just a guest on my show. And guests on my show treat people with respect. All people. Not just the ones they think are worthy of it. Harry took a step toward Jon, his fists clenched. You need to watch how you speak to me. The audience collectively held their breath. Security guards at the side of the stage started moving closer, sensing the situation escalating. Or what? Jon asked, standing his ground. You going to have me arrested? Thrown in the Tower of London? This is America. Your title means nothing here except what you make it mean through your actions. And right now, your actions are showing everyone exactly who you really are. I've had enough of this, Harry yelled. You're a nobody. A talking head who thinks he's important because he has a television show. In 5 years, no one will even remember your name. Jon smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who'd just proven their point. Maybe so, but at least when people do remember me, they'll remember someone who gave a damn about them. Not someone who called them the little people. Harry looked around the studio, at the audience staring at him in shock, at the cameras still rolling, at Jon standing there calmly waiting for a response. You could see the moment he realized he'd lost. Completely and utterly lost. This interview's over, Harry announced, like he was the one making the decision. Yeah, it is, Jon agreed. And you know what? You're going to leave my stage now, because I don't give a platform to people who look down on the very people we're trying to reach. You can't kick me off, Harry sputtered. I'm a guest. You were a guest, Jon corrected. Now you're just someone who needs to leave. Security? 2 security guards stepped forward. Harry looked at them in disbelief. You're actually doing this? You're actually throwing me out? You threw yourself out the minute you forgot that respect goes both ways, Jon said. Title or no title, rich or poor, famous or unknown, everybody deserves to be treated with dignity. You came on this show and showed nothing but contempt for regular people, for my audience, for the work that actually matters. So, yeah, we're done here. Harry pointed a finger at Jon. You're going to regret this. Do you have any idea the kind of backlash you're going to face? The headlines? Jon shrugged. I've faced backlash before for doing what I think is right. I'll survive. The question is, will your reputation survive you showing the world who you really are when someone challenges you? One of the security guards gently touched Harry's elbow. Sir, we need you to come with us. Harry yanked his arm away. Don't touch me. I'll walk out on my own. Then walk, Jon said simply. The silence in that studio was deafening as Harry turned toward the exit. But he couldn't help himself. He stopped, turned back one more time. You know what your problem is, Jon. You think being clever makes you right. You think making jokes about serious issues is the same as actually understanding them, but you're just another entertainer playing pretend. Jon walked back to his desk, sat down, and looked directly at Harry. And you know what your problem is? You think being born into the right family makes you qualified to judge everyone else. You've never had to work for anything real in your life. Never had to prove yourself without that title propping you up. So when someone treats you like everyone else, like just another person who has to earn respect through their actions, you can't handle it. Harry's face was purple now, veins visible in his neck. I've sacrificed more than you'll ever know. Sacrifice, Jon said, shaking his head. You want to talk about sacrifice? Talk to the people who work 2 jobs to feed their families. Talk to the single parents struggling to keep the lights on. Talk to the veterans who actually put their lives on the line for something bigger than themselves. Don't talk to me about sacrifice when your biggest hardship is which palace you have to stay in. That's it, Harry shouted, storming toward the desk. The security guards moved quickly, intercepting him before he could get close. You have no idea what you're talking about. No idea what my life has been like. You're right, Jon said, standing again. I don't know what it's like to grow up with that kind of privilege, but I know what it's like to work for everything I have. I know what it's like to care about something bigger than my own ego. And I know the difference between someone who genuinely wants to help people and someone who wants the credit for helping people. The guards were physically guiding Harry toward the exit now, but he kept twisting back to shout at Jon. This is slander, Harry yelled. You're attacking me without cause. I came here in good faith. Good faith? Jon called after him. You came here thinking you could coast on your title and your name. You thought you could talk down to people and everyone would just accept it because of who your family is. That might work in some places, but not here. Not on this show. Harry was almost at the exit door now, the security guards flanking him on either side. He stopped struggling against them and instead turned to face Jon one last time from across the studio. You're going to pay for this humiliation, he said, his voice shaking with rage. I have friends. I have influence. I can make your life very difficult. Jon walked to the front of the stage, addressing Harry, but also playing to the stunned audience. Is that a threat? Because it sounds like a threat. And threatening someone because they disagreed with you, because they called out your behavior, that just proves everything I've been saying about you. It's not a threat, Harry said. It's a promise. Then promise away, Jon replied. I've been threatened by better people than you. Politicians, corporations, actual dangerous people. You think I'm scared of someone who's never faced a real consequence in his entire life? Harry looked like he wanted to say more, but one of the security guards quietly said something to him, and finally, he turned and walked through the exit door. It closed behind him with a heavy thud that echoed through the silent studio. Jon stood there for a moment, just breathing, letting the adrenaline settle. Then he turned back to his audience. Hundreds of faces staring at him in complete shock. Well, he said, running a hand through his hair. That was something. A few nervous laughs rippled through the crowd. Jon walked back to his desk, sat down, and looked directly into the camera. Here's the thing, he said, his voice quieter now, but no less intense. I don't enjoy that. I don't like conflict. I don't like having to call people out or making them leave. But I also won't sit here and let someone use this platform to demean people. I won't smile and nod while someone talks about human beings like they're lesser than anyone else. The audience started clapping, slowly at first, then building into genuine, sustained applause. Jon held up a hand to quiet them down. We all have different backgrounds, different experiences, different privileges, he continued. That's just reality. But what matters is what we do with what we have. Do we use it to lift others up, or do we use it to make ourselves feel superior? Do we serve people, or do we expect them to be grateful we even notice them? More applause. Jon waited for it to die down. I've had a lot of guests on this show over the years. Presidents, activists, celebrities, regular people doing extraordinary things. And the ones I respect most, the ones who make a real difference, they all have one thing in common. They don't talk down to people. They don't need to remind you of their accomplishments or their status. They just show up, do the work, and treat everyone with basic human decency. He picked up his note cards, the ones he'd set down when the interview started going sideways, and dropped them in the trash can beside his desk. We were supposed to have a nice conversation tonight. Talk about charity work, maybe share some funny stories, give everyone a good time. Instead, you all witnessed what happens when entitlement meets accountability. When someone who's used to being treated special gets treated like everyone else. A producer off camera gave Jon a signal. He glanced at it, then back at the audience. I'm told we need to go to commercial. When we come back, we're going to completely change gears. We've got a great musical guest, and honestly, we could all use something uplifting right about now. The audience laughed, a release of all the tension that had been building. But before we break, Jon said, leaning forward on his desk one more time, I want to say this. If you're out there working hard, trying to make ends meet, trying to do right by your family and your community, if you're one of those people who someone might call a little person, you're not little. You're everything. You're the whole point. Don't ever let anyone make you feel otherwise. The applause was thunderous now. People in the audience were on their feet. Jon gave them a small wave, that genuine smile back on his face. We'll be right back, he said as the show cut to commercial. But even as the lights dimmed and the audience chattered excitedly about what they'd just witnessed, everyone in that studio knew they'd seen something unprecedented. A moment when a talk show host refused to play nice with celebrity and privilege. A moment when respect had to be earned, not assumed. A moment when someone finally said what a lot of people were thinking, but were too polite or too intimidated to say out loud. Jon sat behind his desk during the commercial break, staff members rushing over to check if he was okay, to go over the rest of the show's rundown. He assured them he was fine, that they should just continue as planned. But his hands were shaking slightly as he took a sip of water. Not from fear or regret, but from the sheer intensity of what had just happened. Because this wasn't just about one difficult interview or one entitled guest. This was about a line in the sand, about what gets tolerated and what doesn't, about whether fame and title mean you're above criticism or above consequences. And in that moment, on that stage, Jon Stewart had made it clear where he stood. Not above anyone, not below anyone, just alongside everyone else, fighting for the idea that we all deserve dignity and respect, regardless of where we come from or what title we hold. The stage manager counted down to coming back from commercial. Jon straightened his papers, took a breath, and prepared to move on with the show. But he knew, and everyone watching knew, that this episode would be remembered. Not for the jokes or the planned segments, but for the 38 seconds it took for everything to fall apart after one man called millions of people little and another man refused to let it slide. That's what happens when you forget that respect isn't given based on birth or status. It's earned through how you treat others. And when you fail that basic test of human decency, it doesn't matter who you are or what family you come from. You still have to leave the stage.